This video lecture is on succeeding in an online class. So the first thing we have to stress is that this is a real class. I know that may sound odd, but just to give you an example, today, as I was looking at some YouTube videos preparing for other classes, there was an advertisement for an online program in which someone said, well, I just don't have time to take an in-person class. Now, it would be, I think, realistic if the person said, my schedule does not allow me to take classes when people usually do. I need to have a flexible schedule. That would be fine. But to say, I don't have time to take a class, it doesn't matter how the class is delivered. Classes still take time because they exist. They are real. And there's just something, unfortunately, about taking a class online as opposed to in a classroom that makes the class seem unreal. And we don't need to work at things that are unreal. So we just have to really stress that this is a real class. The grade that you earn in the class is real. It impacts your scholarships. It impacts your GPA. All of those things are real. So we just can't emphasize that enough. I think two challenges that come out of taking an online class have to do with time, particularly how time has limits and how we organize time. First of all, what's awesome about an online class is that it is flexible within limits, right? I typically have kind of a weekly schedule and I expect people to do certain things during the week, and you can kind of decide how you're going to allocate space within those limits. So you may say, okay, I just want to take like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm going to work really, really hard and get everything done Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then take the quiz. And that's fine if that works for you. Or you may say, you know what? I'm the kind of person that I get bored if I do the same thing for too long. So I'm going to do a bit each day. That also works. So that's what's really great. But the problem is it can also be dangerous because it can easily lead to just not doing the work. Human beings, we often have the best intentions. And I'm sure if I ask any student, I'll say, do you plan on studying this week? Do you plan on watching the videos? Most will say yes. And I think most will be sincere when they say yes. But the problem is we consistently choose to do other things. So you may not consciously choose not to do the work, but when you choose to do other things instead of the work, you are choosing not to do the work. And so while that flexibility is helpful, because you don't have that same structure, because you have to do things yourself, you have to say, okay, now is the time I am going to sit down and do this work. It can be very dangerous if you don't make that conscious decision. I'm going to do the work now, not tomorrow, now. So we have to remember that this flexibility is limited, right? It is a real class, so you still have to do work. Like I said, within those time constraints, usually for me, it's like a week. For other classes, it may be more, it may be less. But the flexibility is limited. It still takes time. It's very important then that you set specific times to complete coursework with daily goals. This is key. Human beings are creatures of habit. If we don't have good habits, if we don't have good structure, we don't get the work done. And I highly recommend that you have daily goals. And it's good to figure in breaks. Say, I'm going to give myself 2 hours to work on this class each day, but I know that every half an hour I'm going to take like a 10-minute break or a 5-minute break, or every hour I'm going to take a 10-minute break. It doesn't matter as long as you're able to do the work, but it is important to be realistic about what you can do. People oftentimes are unrealistic and think that they can do too much, and then they wait till the last second to do it, and then boom, they don't get things done. So it's important to set a specific time to complete coursework, to have some kind of regular schedule, and have a daily goal. Like I keep a list of things I'm supposed to do each day, and I mark them off, and then I can look at the end of the day and say, okay, I failed to do these things. Was I unrealistic? Did I try and plan too much? If that's the case, I need to be more realistic about my planning. Or did I get distracted? Did I spend too much time on something else that wasn't as important? It's important to reflect on those things and then work from there. It's important to be particularly mindful about when you take quizzes. Sometimes what happens is the student will procrastinate, wait to do all the videos at the same time, not get them all done, and then have to rush and take the quiz when they're tired because they've just watched all these videos and they were only half paying attention anyway because they were sleepy. So if you find yourself doing that, if you find yourself taking those quizzes late at night, start a bit earlier. I've had cases where I've talked to students and I looked at the time they were taking those assessments, and it's like, yeah, this is the problem. You're taking it too late. Take it earlier. And boom, they took it earlier and their grades went up. One thing I also have to stress, online classes should have about the same amount of contact time as in-person classes. That's not including time you spent studying. So you kind of think about it this way. When I have an online class, I think about, I have these videos students are supposed to watch, these activities they should do, about how much of this is equal to an in-person class. That's how I decide how much online work to give students. That is not including the time spent studying. So don't think, I watched all 3 videos or, watch ever many videos there are. Now I'm done. No, you still have to study. See, what happens is when we're in class, you have, I was in class. So in class, I learn the material for the first time. Then outside of class, I study. Okay, boom, I got that. But now you're never in class in a sense. You're never in a physical classroom. So it's easy to forget the whole studying part. And even though typically I make things open note, you still have to learn the material, or open note's not going to help you, right? If you never watch the videos, if you never get the material down, doesn't matter. If you have terrible notes, it's not going to help you. It's open note. So it's important to keep that in mind when you're trying to work out your schedule so that you can be realistic about what you can do. Like I said, I know from emails I get from students right before the exams, because they'll ask, how do I access these videos or something like that? It's like, okay, when you're asking me the night before the exam how to access videos, and you've been supposed to be watching videos for like 3 weeks, I know that you haven't been watching them. Did you really think you could just leave the class off? And no student is going to consciously think, I don't have to do this. But like I said, when you're doing other things other than the class, you are making that decision consciously or unconsciously. So it's very important to be realistic about what you can do. One other thing I have to stress is people like to cut corners. Everyone's busy. So a lot of times what people will do is they'll say, I don't have to watch the videos. I'll just read the PowerPoints. That's good enough. Now, one thing you should know from having a class with me is that I only put some information on the PowerPoints. The PowerPoints are just basically my notes to remind me what I'm supposed to talk about, to make sure I cover all the material that needs to be covered. They're not meant to just be read. If I just read the PowerPoints, why would we even have a class? I just say, just read it. So that's key. And it's important. I really want to stress this. Everyone wants to cut corners, all right? Everyone wants to do the least amount of work possible, including professors. Why would I bother making videos if I didn't expect students to watch them? Why would I waste my time? I make videos and video lectures because I think they're helpful. I think they're useful. So why would you not watch them, right? If I am willing to invest my time to make them, you should invest your time to watch them, because I wouldn't waste my time making them unless I thought they were important, unless there was going to be information that you would be tested on. And I want to stress, it takes a lot longer to watch a video than it does to make one. Right? So like I said, do not cut corners, watch the videos, fill out the study guides. That does make it take longer, of course, if you fill out the study guides as you go, but boom, you've got your notes, the test, you got something to study, the test is going to be easy. But you have to invest the time. So now we have to talk about the issue of environment. First, you need to make sure you have a quiet place dedicated to study where you can work. This can be very difficult when you're working outside of a campus environment, right? I don't want to make this sound easy, but this is key. I work in a home office when I'm at home, and because of the way our house works, I won't bore you with the details, but basically, my home office is a bonus room. It's a room over a garage. So it's actually pretty big. And what I did was, because there's not a lot of other space in the house that can be used, I converted it so that my children could have a place where they could do crafts, where they could read, and where they could play video games. So a lot of times my kids are in my room with me. That's not the best place to work, but that's kind of what I'm stuck with. So what's key then is I can tell you that I work more efficiently when they're not in the room. So I understand the difficulties, but I'm able to organize things. I know there's certain times when they're not in the room right now, so I'm making this video. So as much as possible, you want to make sure you have a quiet place dedicated to study where you can work. That can be difficult to do. I understand that. But then you have to really note those times when you do have the opportunity to study and you take advantage of it. And we have a schedule worked out. So I know when I have the opportunity to work in my room, my office, without the kids being in there as well. But this is key. And this may mean communicating with the people you live with, saying, look, I need to have this time. A time when no one knocks on my door, when no one talks to me, when I can work. You'll work efficiently, and in the long run, you save time. I never want to give you advice that doesn't help you work efficiently. My goal is that you get the maximum payoff with the minimum amount of effort and time. I'm not saying that things will be easy. I'm just saying I want to make sure that you work efficiently. Make sure people around you know that you're taking an online class and it is a real class. I once had a student, and I'm not kidding, was trying to take a quiz, and his mom made him do chores while he was taking the quiz. And I don't know what to say about that exactly, except to note that you need to communicate with people. Hey, this is the time when I'm going to be working on my class. Or, hey, I'm going to take an exam. I got to take an exam at this time. So please, no one talk to me. I'm not going to answer my phone. I'm not going to do anything other than take the exam. Please be quiet. Make doubly sure that people leave you alone during the time quiz or exam. Like I said, he was taking a timed exam. That was disastrous. That someone should come in and say, to bother him and to make him do chores when he's supposed to be taking his exam. Make sure that you turn off all other applications on your computer. So, for example, my email will make a sound when I get an email. You probably have your phone set to vibrate or to make a sound when you get a message. When you're working, have those things off. It's very easy to be distracted, right? You have a certain amount of time to work. Someone sends you a message, so you send them a message back. Then they send you a message back. Then you send a message back. Not only do you lose the time you're doing that, you've broken your concentration. You've lost track of what I was talking about in the video or something like that. So it's very important that you turn off all other applications on your phone or computer, that you eliminate all other distractions. This will help you work efficiently once you do it this way. If you do things right, if you make sure you're careful about time, you make sure you're careful about your environment, and you work efficiently, that will help you get good grades, better grades, and then have more time to have fun and do all those other great things without having the stress of having to do your work, because you'll have it done. Nothing feels better, I think, than that feeling of accomplishment that you've done something really great and now you can have fun. Right? And that's my goal. Make sure that people do well, that they learn well, and that they enjoy their lives. Now, I want to give you some technical advice. What you see here in this image is my workstation. Right? In my home office, this is what you would see. You would see a monitor hooked up to a laptop using an HDMI connection. Right? HDMI cables are great. When I was young, we had a whole bunch of cables. There was like 3 or 4 different cables. You would have to match up to the correct color. It was kind of difficult, but HDMI is awesome. It's just one cable to one cable. And what's really cool is that you can connect usually a laptop or other computer to a monitor, giving you 2 screens that you can work on. Now, why is that so important? Well, you can see here in the setup, I'm watching a video and on the big screen, and on the smaller screen, I am taking notes. That's what's awesome about having 2 screens. It makes things a lot easier. You could have the study guide open on one screen. You could have the video on the other. You would take your notes in the study guide, and you would then be able to follow along. And one thing, remember, when I make the study guides, I'm basing them off of the lectures or the video lectures or whatever. So you should just be able to go down. They should be in order. And you know that if you miss, there's like a question that's blank, you know that means you probably missed something in the video. So I really highly recommend this. You can buy a smaller monitor sometimes for as cheap as $60. And I know you're probably not made of money. That might be a lot. That might be difficult to afford. But a lot of times, I should point out, TVs will have an HDMI connection, and you can actually connect your laptop. When I was a graduate student, we didn't have much money. We had a TV, and my wife and our eldest son would watch it. And when they weren't watching it, sometimes then I would hook up my computer to it, and then I would have the dual screen. So you could do this just with the television you may have. Though if you have the money, I highly recommend that you go ahead and invest in a monitor if you have the money in the space. I know that you may be like, wow, that's a lot of money. But the key thing is, if it helps you improve your GPA and keep or earn extra scholarships, it pays for itself. Right? That's just one thing. It's value. But you can do it that way. You can have an HDMI connection in order to use 2 screens at once. Helps you a lot, I think. Now, I want to go briefly over how to do this in case you're not familiar with it. So if you're using a Windows machine, and I'm sorry, that's what I use, so that's what I'm going to have to tell you about how to use. If you use something else, you can find lots of tutorials on YouTube and things like that. But if you press the Windows button and then select the gearbox, you will find yourself at a screen like this. You would then select System. Within System, you would then select the display, which is highlighted here. You would then, in the display menu, you'll see there's something that says multiple displays. You can have the option to duplicate the displays. That's what you might do if you're in a classroom. That's what I do when I'm teaching. I had the same thing on the projector as I do on the computer. But here you want to extend the displays. And once you do that, it will extend the display so that you will be able to move your mouse from one screen to the other. You'll be able to move windows around. It is very nice. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, I think it's well worth the investment. If you find that you're struggling with an online course, as with anything in life, it's key that you identify why you're struggling. Is the problem that you're forgetting assignments? Is the problem that you're not watching the videos early enough? Are you having trouble with the quizzes? Figure out what you're having trouble with and why you're having trouble with it. And that's something you can, of course, talk to me about. I'm having trouble with these quizzes. How can I do better? If your problem is a lack of that you don't work well when you're unsupervised or that you're bad at scheduling things, learn to schedule. Learn to set goals for yourself that you can accomplish realistically, right? And I have to emphasize, that is one thing about college, is learning those skills well. If you're not someone who can keep deadlines, you're going to have a really hard time getting and keeping a job and being promoted at your job, because bosses do not like it when you get things done late, because time equals money. So you say, okay, I have a problem. I'm not very structured. I need to work on that. I have a problem. I don't keep schedules very well. Well, that's something to work on. And if you can overcome the problems in this class, you'll be developing those good habits that will help you to get your dream job, to keep it, and be able to be promoted within that job. And if you do that, and hopefully you learn some history, I will be very, very happy.